and welcome to Pique My Interest, a podcast dedicated to creativity. My name is Scoob Decker, and I am an artist, and your host. Pique My Interest is an exploration in meeting some incredible artists, learning about their craft, and exploring what makes them create. In this episode, PMI visits St. George, Utah, exploring the red rock canyons of the beautiful Tuacahn Amphitheater. Here, the theater produces incredible performances every year, and I found two of the funniest guests that were recently featured in their season. Madeline Raube focuses on the voice to create and build a character, and has even become a vocal coach. She finds the new experiences in each performance, after so many to keep her fresh for herself, her castmates, and the audience. Kaitlyn Jackson believes storytelling is the most important. She portrays a very familiar character we all know and love, and creates a version people relate to, but brings her own nuance to allow everyone to experience Kaitlyn's version. These two dive into the challenges of being artists in an outdoor theater in southern Utah. St. George's atmosphere is harsh. Over 100-degree weather can be draining and easily depletes your creativity, let alone some unexpected rain, wind, or even bats who might want to join in on the performance. Tuacahn works fast. You must be able to absorb information, work and adapt quickly to keep up with the tough schedule while having the training and education to be able to trust your body when hitting the stage. This episode was recorded on June 12th in St. George, Utah. I hope you look up their work and your interest is piqued. I hope you're having a grand day, and please enjoy this week's episode I've titled, Countess and the Ice Queen. Hello, and welcome to Pique My Interest. I'm currently in St. George, Utah, sitting outside the Tuacahn Amphitheater with some incredible artists. How are you doing today?
Awesome.
Hey, we're great.
This is exciting.
Yeah! I am sitting here with Countess Lily and Princess Elsa, kind of. Can you please introduce yourself? Tell us, who are you? What are your names and where are you from?
My name is Madeline Raube. I am from Philadelphia, or a suburb of Philly in Westchester, Pennsylvania. But I'm based in New York City, like most actors. And I'm playing Countess Lily for the 5 millionth time in Anastasia, and I'm also in the other two shows here at Tuacahn.
And I'm Kaitlyn Jackson. I am playing Elsa in Tuacahn's production of Frozen, as well as various other things in Anastasia and Jersey Boys as well. I am based in New York City, but I'm originally from upstate New York. So very excited to be out here all the way in Utah. It's definitely been a change of pace for the both of us.
Yeah, it's a little toasty here, huh?
Just a little.
We're in the desert, but you make it work. And your craft is singing, acting, dancing, performing.
Yep.
All of the above.
All of the above.
What is your specialty within your craft?
I consider my specialty within my craft singing. That's what I have just honed in on for years and years. So that would be my specialty.
You're also a vocal teacher.
I'm also a voice teacher and lots of fun little degrees for performing and teaching. And so singing is my favorite part of my craft.
I think I have kind of a balanced love and skill set for singing, acting, and dancing. I'm also a choreographer, so I just like to lead with storytelling being my craft, I suppose, because you can do that through all of those mediums and more, and I always think my work, the story-driven aspect, is the most important for me, so I lead with that.
Absolutely. And I have had the pleasure to watch these ladies on the stage here at Tuacahn for both of their performances of Frozen as well as Anastasia. And tonight I get to see Jersey Boys. I get to see them do even more, and I'm very excited. But full disclosure, I do know them from previous. I was on tour with them on the national tour of Anastasia, where Madeline did perform it for, I think, maybe over 300 times-ish.
Yeah, 400
plus
point.
times. And
yeah.
Kaitlyn did join it later on, and I am just so excited to reconnect with both of you and be here. What is your background? Do you have any education in theater?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on it already. I went to Oberlin College and Conservatory, but I was there at the Conservatory of Music, and my focus was opera for many, many years, even through high school. It was just opera and classical music, and I have such a strong love for that. And so at the time, my teacher was like, go ahead, get your degree in classical opera. And I did, and I loved it. But the whole time, I knew that I wanted to branch out and do something different, and I wanted to do Broadway, and I wanted to learn all different styles. So then I got my master's at NYU after that. So I have my master's degree in vocal performance and musical theater. And I'm so grateful that I have those degrees, and now I'm teaching and I'm using all the tools that I've been given from both of those institutions. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I have been singing, dancing, acting forever. You know, I started dance classes when I was 2, so definitely dance was the formal training initially. And then in high school, I'd always done a lot of like singer-songwriter adventures, singing events, gigs and stuff. But I was featured on American Idol when I was 15. And so that kind of launched me into the get a band with real people, stop singing to tracks when you gig around, you know, the local tour type of thing. So I did the singer-songwriter adventure and then realized that was too little structure for me. Everything was like find your own gigs or else, you know, that's the whole thing. And I needed a job that existed that I could acquire. Yeah. So theater combined my love for acting, singing, and dancing. I went, you know, did a bunch of different things, but combining that was the best choice. Like do I want to go into broadcast journalism, all these things, but I realized that broadcast journalism was only because I wanted to be on TV, so I should just go to school for being on TV. So I went to Ithaca College, got my BFA in acting, and during that I was able to study abroad, and I have my stage combat certification at the British Academy of Stage and Screen Combat throughout that experience as well. So here I am the fight captain for the season at Tuacahn.
Yeah, you are.
And yeah, lots of different crazy stuff. So now Madeline is teaching me everything about the world and helping me sing better.
I'm her voice teacher.
She's my teacher now.
Collaboration.
Yeah, the education always continues.
And your roommates, too.
I know, we're roomies.
What about your upbringing in Philadelphia and upstate New York turned you into a creator?
Well, I came from a super creative family already. My dad was in advertising, and he self-taught photographer and artist himself. He went to art school. And my mom, like, I have memories of her doing community theater when I was little, just watching her from the audience, or she would sing at church. And she would play like the Broadway Kids albums. She played all of the Barbra Streisand, Bette Midler. Like, I was very immersed in that world already. And so I loved musical theater from the get-go. I would sing all the time. I have, you know, I think there's a video that's floating around of me like 3 years old, like writing my own song and singing it, right? Like as we do.
As we do.
So I was really lucky that I was already born into a family that was very, very creative. And Philadelphia, I lived there, and then we lived in Chicago for about 8 years. So both of those cities had incredible opportunities for me to get involved with voice teachers and acting classes and just, you know, performing around the cities. So that's how it all began.
I similarly came from a creative family, but with less knowledge of the actual industry. Like, my parents just had an appreciation for it. My dad self-taught guitar. My mom was all about creating opportunities for me when she saw, you know, like I said, dancing starting young. So she was like, here, I'll direct the 4th through 6th grade production of High School Musical that you can be in, you know? And like, she would direct the senior plays, and I would be the kid randomly that was in the high school senior play, you know? Like, well, you know, she got me around, so I appreciate her, the momager from the beginning, right? Yeah. But what really, like, the one moment that made me decide this is what I needed to be doing out of all my other interests was actually, there was a mock car crash that we did for drunk driving awareness before prom. And they took a group of students in my class that were actually friends and had specific relationships with people, and we staged a drunk driving accident, and like the guy who was posing as the drunk driver had quote unquote killed his real life girlfriend, and they took people out in the ambulance. Jaws of Life came and took the top off the car. Like, there was a helicopter and full gore makeup, and it was so immersive, and I remember being so affected by that emotionally, and upon reflecting from that experience, I was like, I just lived a completely different life experience, being completely safe, that hopefully I never have in my real life, but I know kind of what that feels like. And I was able to be transported and have a completely different human experience than my own self. And I knew that theater and acting and these things could really broaden my life and give me a much more full life experience if I'm not only relying on Kaitlyn's adventures.
Yeah. I love your background in kind of real world theater influencing you wanting to become an actress. I have a similar story. I went to college kind of undeclared. I liked history. I loved my history teacher in high school. And I got to college, and 4 days later I dropped history because I was like, this is not the same history that I remembered. And I just tried to remember what I loved about that class. And then I remembered it was my teacher. He taught history by telling stories. And he would just tell these stories about historical figures and their influence on the world theatrically. And then I realized that's what I loved. I love storytelling. I changed my major that day, and the rest is history. Here we are doing theater all over the place. We're in Tuacahn. It is an unbelievable setting. The colors and the canyons give it such a unique atmosphere. If you don't know anything about it, they use waterworks on the stage sometimes. This season they use snow. I wonder why. But it just draws the most incredible performers and the most amazing designers, and we are going to learn about your creation process now. I want to learn about your creativity. What's it like getting up on that stage? And for Madeline, I want to focus a little bit about how do you stay creative and fresh while you're doing something that you've done over and over and over again. You said that you've done this how many times now?
I mean, I think the exact number is it'll be 494 times at the end of this, so pretty close to 500 times, which is a personal record for me. And I randomly found this fact out, but I looked up, and I am the longest running Countess Lily in the world, above anyone who's done the Broadway workshop, the Broadway run, the people who've done it on tour, which is just a silly but fun fact. It's crazy to think about it that way, but I mean, so here at Tuacahn, this is I did the tour for 2 years, right? And that was a very different setting. Now we're outside in 115 degree heat with a completely new cast of people. So creativity out here has been a mixture of survival and also just being thrown into such a unique environment that you have to create differently. You simply must. I feel bad for all the people in Act 1 of that show who are wearing wool coats and
it's really
hats,
insane.
but they have ice packs on underneath. They get it done. So the creativity was easy to do here because it was a fresh take on it. A fresh take on something that I've done a bunch of times. And it's always fun. Even when I was on tour, and even when it was up to 430 times, right? You just end up, if you can super be in the moment with that person, because we're human beings at the end of the day, we're sick, we're tired, we're happy, we're excited, we're sad, whatever's going on in our lives, we somehow have to just get through it and infuse it in there anyway. And I love that about theater, that you just have to bring a part of what is really happening in your life into the character somehow, which is great about acting. You just connect with that person in the moment. So it's always been fun. We also will just energize each other before shows. Kaitlyn and I were just talking about how sometimes we would add silly little subtle things into the show that night, hey, let's focus on this one theme tonight for a song, right? That's something the audience would never know is going on, but after 400 shows, we might need to it's
spice it up a little bit.
It is
caffeine.
A little jolt of energy.
Yeah.
So but I'm having a lot of fun doing it here because it's so new.
Yeah.
And the costumes are different, the team is different, and then you look up and you're in a freaking canyon.
The moon is sometimes so bright and beautiful above the seats when we're singing Stay I Pray You. Are you joking? It rained
gorgeous.
the last show during these magical moments. There's real explosions because we're outside with the, spoiler alert, bombing sequence, right? In the beginning of the show.
Yeah, sorry, the Romanovs died.
Yeah. But it's so crazy the things we're able to do here.
Yeah, there's live animals, you have automobiles on the stage.
Yeah, and Jersey Boys.
Which, to me, sometimes, I think that could be distracting, right, to a story, right? All of the bells and whistles on it, which is, what Tuacahn is. Bells and whistles galore, right? But it's really like it adds to it because of the like actual magnitude of the stage. That's the other thing about acting and singing here is it's so massive that the creativity that's like coming through you has to be amplified just physically in your body and your voice like times 20, which is like an exhausting but fun process.
And there's no hiding that you're outside.
Yeah.
like you can see
it's rained.
The cliffs behind the theater, you know, and there are bats flying around who are becoming all too friendly, you know. So sometimes if you're up high on a set piece, there's some dodging going on, like you know, and the audience is also aware of that, you know. So it just it's a very unifying experience with the audience. That like sometimes when the wind picks up magically, like at the top of Let It Go, it's awesome, and it's so immersive. It's like 4D for the audience.
Definitely gives a connection between the audience and the actors and the theater, creating this environment. I love that. Do you find that you're making new discoveries as Countess Lily? I've watched you on tour dozens of times. You're a powerhouse. You come out for Act 2. You sing this incredible song. You're singing, you're dancing. You are hilarious.
Thanks.
You bring the house down. In Act 1 on tour, you did a lot of fun, silly things. Here, you just get to play Countess Lily the whole show. Are you finding new things as you're going out there?
I am. I mean, so for me, like singing, everything to me is central around the voice, right? Like in everything that I do, that's just always how I have thought about things. So even from the get-go, even like way back 3 years ago at this point, when I was trying to develop the character, I thought about the singing voice and the character voice, because the voice that I end up using for her is not the voice that I use when I'm speaking as myself. It's a very stylized place that I like to go. So I've been experimenting with that a little bit more out here. She has a little bit of like a bite to her sound. It has a little bit of sharp, almost like, you know, that sort of like mid-Atlantic, like super stylized or like black and white film. Because of where we're set, like I found a placement in my voice that I've been experimenting with. And I've also just been like allowing that to like really go further. Like there are things that I'm doing now, like I'm vocally like laughing at a certain part in a scene that I never laughed at before, and I'm letting it just like fill the space and drive the story. But to me, like the voice is always kind of that center of the character for me. So I've been really playing with that. And then also just having a new partner to like play off of. Peter here, who plays Vlad, is someone totally new, and we've had to like redevelop that relationship, and he has never done this show before, right? So he's like on show 40 and he's experimenting all the time and throwing wild things at me, and like I'm just like, okay, let's go. Like, so that to me has also been fun because he's so new. And that's fun to play with someone who's experiencing it for the first time. But yeah, I'm finding a lot of fun nuances in my like physicality and my voice with the character, and that kind of just takes me.
And you have your vocal teaching history to know how to do that healthily.
Yes, yeah. I mean, after how many shows, and singing out here requires so much more interesting tools that I don't normally have to access. I mean, even working with Kaitlyn, like she's singing her face off every night now. Elsa, she's the Ice Queen, and that requires already in a normal indoor theater so much stamina and presence in the sound. But like being out here in a very dry, dry. I mean, so dry.
Your chords vibrate differently. Like it feels different to produce sound here. We're higher in elevation. We're, you know, there's so many different factors.
We've been through like mini dust storms out here while performing. So like it takes a lot, but like I'm really happy that I know so much about the voice, and that's kind of helped inform me like keep it healthy and you know, work with someone else who's singing something totally different and keep that healthy.
And speaking of Princess Elsa, you're her.
I'm her.
You are Elsa. Now, what I'm curious about, how do you bring creativity into a character that people already have a preconceived notion about? People are very familiar with Frozen.
Very familiar.
She's won an Oscar or two. She has a sequel. People know what she's supposed to be like. People know what she's supposed to sound like. How do you bring creativity into that character?
Well, I have to just start from a place that I am not a cartoon, nor am I Idina Menzel. So I feel like you're coming to terms with that in and of itself is step one, right? But then, yeah, I actually didn't, when I got the role, I only watched Frozen the movie in the last week or so. I watched Frozen 2 for the first time. I'd seen Frozen years and years ago when it first came out, but I watched Frozen 2 for the first time in the past week too. But I'm really just trying to stay grounded in the show itself and the script that I am working with. It's very similar to the movie, and because people are so familiar, I don't feel like I need to give them what they already know, you know? And I'm trying to find the nuance and what sets the show that we are doing apart from just watching an animated film, because if they wanted to watch an animated film, they would have stayed home and watched an animated film. But they're not, they're here. They want to experience something live. So a lot of the things that I've been finding in the script of the musical is raising the stakes and making it even a more scary experience. Like, she is going through this crazy life experience. She's being shunned from her kingdom. She has these powers that she doesn't know how to control. She's trying not to kill her sister. Like, can you imagine? And just like from watching the movie, that's the first thing that I picked up on, was how, you know, you have to but experience and put yourself in those high risk situations. And I think just staying grounded in those moments and connecting. Daisy Wright plays Anna, and she is just so fabulous, and she is that person. Like, she is Anna, like, as her own human in real life. And so it doesn't feel like we're putting anything on, you know, and she and I have a really great connection. So just really trying to dig in and stay in those moments and acknowledge the importance of what's happening, and try not to get too like third party observant of myself. The second you start watching yourself while you're in the moment, you're out, you're gone, you lose it. So just trying to embrace that this is going to be Kaitlyn's version of Elsa, and letting the audience's preconceived notions inform and give them the lens of what they're seeing me do, but just acknowledging and accepting that it's my own thing. It's gonna be a slightly different approach from the movie, from the Elsa that came before me. You know, everybody's is going to be unique and different, because like Madeline was saying, we bring in our person, our experience, what we're like struggling with or feeling good about that specific day. So just being in the moment and present and acknowledging that it's my version.
Bringing as much of yourself into a character without derailing from the story and what people already know. Like I said, I feel like it would be a little difficult to be able to portray somebody who the audience already knows what their decision might be.
Right.
And how do you portray a new objective when they go, well, yeah, she's going to freeze something here, or yeah, she's going to run away here.
And they know that, but Elsa doesn't know that.
Exactly.
Elsa doesn't know that she's going to run away now. Elsa doesn't know that she's accidentally going to explode this fountain because she didn't know her sister was going to get engaged to somebody just now. You know what I mean? Like, the audience knows all these things, but Elsa doesn't in that moment. So how can I... It's counterintuitive to try to anticipate what other people know. Like, it's just not helpful to anybody,
right?
You know, so all you can do is know what Elsa knows.
Right.
So you're just bringing the audience along with the ride, and that's all you can do.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
You're never gonna please everyone. You know, if you're acting for, you know, others, it's you're never gonna be grounded in the moment that you're having. You know,
you just can't have any of those preconceived notions in your head.
Yeah.
So you're telling me,
and it's tough not to. Don't get me wrong, man. It sneaks in there, and you're like, man, that sounded like crap today. You know, like there's all the things.
I
But you
think
do
it's
what you
probably
can.
challenging too. Like, anytime there's a Disney musical, right? There's a certain expectation to like play Disney, right? Because that Disney is a style. I think, just like Anastasia is set in a period that requires a certain style attached to it. So like having to play to that very like, this is a colorful cartoon Disney show, but like, where's the truth in it? I think that our show does that really well.
Yeah, well, we're really trying to find that. And it comes to a point of like distinguishing playing Disney and playing she's regal, she's bright, you know, not putting on the princess, but embodying those characteristics that one would share. You know, it is heightened. But
so what I'm getting is that using past experiences and being able to let go of things, we're in the land of yesterday, just letting it go.
Oh.
If you don't know, those are the two big songs.
That was smooth. That's why you
That was
host these
smooth.
things.
Wow.
Thank you. Madeline, you are the Countess. Kaitlyn, you are a princess. To me, you're successful. Do you consider yourself successful? What is success in theater? And what really
isn't
got
that
you
the
successful?
question?
Oh, Scoob.
Who knows, man?
Hey,
It's different for everybody.
It really is. I know. Well, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, thank you.
I think everyone sitting at this table right now is pretty successful.
Oh.
You know? I think it's such a personal journey. My actual journey with the definition success has changed multiple times.
Of course.
And it's probably going to change again. But I feel like I'm settling into a place where I know what success feels like for me, or what I want that to be for myself. Like way back when I was working 6 part-time jobs and commuting to New York because I couldn't afford to live there. My goal was only Broadway. And even in school it was if you don't make it on Broadway, you are not successful. That is not, it's just not going to happen for you, and therefore that is not success. And now, after all this time, after going through all these auditions, after much rejection and all of that, my definition of success for myself is being able to perform and be paid for it, just have a professional performing job, and to feel like I have a real balance between work and life. Because this career is, you can so easily get sucked into my career is the only thing, and that's success for me. And to me, it's having that balance. I want to be able to have my partner, my home, my outside hobbies and activities. I want to be able to teach and nurture that. I want to be able to perform professionally. And to me, that means performing anywhere in the country that is going to offer me a chance to really do real art, real theater. And maybe that's Broadway and maybe it's not. And at the end of the day, I'm really very happy performing here, this is not Broadway, but I'm in the middle of a freaking canyon in the desert. That is not at all what I thought was gonna happen for myself. And so I'm feeling very happy and peaceful knowing that definition has changed for me over the years. And I'm just looking forward to, honestly, as much as I love Countess Lily, I'm ready to try something new, right? And keep growing in that way, and also nurture other parts of my life, because they often get neglected, I think, and it's hard to find that balance. So
It's really hard.
it's really hard.
Yeah. I feel like I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure out what success means. I'm in this moment. I'm feeling very grateful. I am a non-union actor. I did not have representation until a month ago. Something very recently I've gained representation. And this year, 2024, I will have been working in a performing capacity for all but 5 weeks by the end of the year. And that feels successful to me. That's crazy, and I did not think that was going to happen. And 2 of those things are huge principal roles. I was playing Carole King in a production of Beautiful prior to being Elsa here, and I am still trying to figure out what the work-life balance is. It's tough sometimes when you're on these contracts that take you away from a place you would call home, right? Because it puts you in this weird bubble of, are we here long enough to engage with the community? Kind of, sort of, not really, and also with what time. And so then you become very dependent on your castmates, but then there's also no one else. And we've been here for 6 months, and God, I love them, but also who are other people? And, so it's tough. And I, am having a number of challenges in my personal life as well. I had a death in the family. I've had a loss of a relationship. Lots of things are happening. So I am in the process of shifting the vision and figuring out what that is. I think right now my definition of success is work. Like Madeline was saying, being paid to perform, that is successful for me.
Yeah, doing what you love and getting paid for it.
Doing what you love and getting paid for it. And, I am working on other sides of the journey as well. And yes, Broadway is definitely a measurement of success, and sure, I want that. I'm not ashamed to say I want that. Everybody wants that. It comes to a point when you adjust based on what you're surrounded with. And right now, I'm not really surrounded by anything other than my work. As far as things I'm working on, I'm trying to learn how to take care of myself. I started painting my nails. That's self-care, right? With the 30 seconds I have in the morning. So I'm just trying to figure out, how to take care of my being. And maybe we're getting closer. I don't
It's
know.
ever-changing.
It's ever-changing. Yeah, there's not, I guess the answer is, who knows?
Depending on where you are in your life, right? It changes, and
Yeah.
Elsa
right?
does her own nails.
Elsa does her own ice nails.
Fantastic. And what gets your creative juices flowing? I'm sure you have hobbies. What inspires you?
Oh man.
Well, I've been crocheting, which is unrelated, but it's, sometimes you just need, like, we do a
Everything. You have crochet. I need everyone on this podcast to know that she has crocheted, I swear, literally everything in this apartment. Pillows, drapes. She may have made clothing. You did.
I made a top.
Lingerie by accident.
It's a little boobier than I intended. But, oh my goodness. No, but you have to, we do such our job is so high intensity emotionally. And when you're invested, it takes a lot of your focus and your,
and physically.
And physically, sometimes it is helpful to that experience to give yourself other outlets of mind-numbing tasks or other ways to be creative that are completely separate. They always say the best actors are the people that do the most outside of that, have the most world experience,
Yeah.
And at this point, I forgot what the question was, but
hobbies. So when I got to TuaCon, I knew I needed. So I brought my jump rope with me. I love jump roping, and I bought a bike off of Facebook Marketplace because I need that for my happiness. I love biking.
Yeah.
I love it. I miss my bike at home.
And what a place to bike
And
here.
what a place to
My
bike.
goodness.
And other hobbies include, I guess it's a little bit of, I do love teaching voice. Like when I teach a lesson, sometimes I'll walk away and have a new thought or idea for myself, which then I'll think about doing later in the show or whatever. And it's just another outlet. It's still something that I love and I'm doing professionally, but it's not me focused. It's teaching someone something else, which is so exciting to me. I mean, I love adventure. We're both pretty adventurous.
Yeah, we've been hiking a lot and doing fun adventures.
I think for this, what we're both trying to say is you need to do something so unrelated to the actual performing and actual theater to just feel like a whole person. Yeah. We've had Harry Potter marathons. That's a hobby. And
I love watching TV. I just love it.
She loves her TV.
And then we're watching it, and of course the moment is unrelated and something really tragic is happening to this, but then we look at each other and we say, what an excellent monologue. For an audition. I know.
We watched Fleabag the other night, and there was a really great monologue. I hope they used that on their reel.
That's
good
what we're doing. For your reel.
I know.
Excellent. Yeah, these there was one cab driver that we were watching in Sex and the City, and she just turned around. She was like, "Yeah, girl, let's get some pizza." And we're like, "Good for you. You had 3 seconds of screen time. Heck of a reel clip. Hello, just good stuff."
I think though that for myself, sometimes on a long contract like this or even tour, you can so easily get bogged down into the schedule.
Yeah.
Here, right? It's so repetitive. You wake up, you go through your routine, you make food and you perform, and then you either travel or you stay here and you do it again, right? And so I, for myself, have to continue to learn new music that has nothing to do with the show for me to stay creative. There's this event happening this Saturday in Utah. It's for celebrating Pride in Utah, and they asked a couple of us to sing, and I immediately was like, I have to do that because I have to sing something so I have to get myself out of this box. And actually singing new music helps me get creative because it reminds me of other sides of myself that I have not touched on, maybe. I love reading. I should clarify, I love audiobooks. I love being read stories. Murder mystery, those get the creative juices flowing, because it's just it's something different, it's something new.
That's interesting. Right? That Kaitlyn, you like watching television, and Madeline, you like audiobooks. Both are different forms of storytelling.
Yes.
Of course.
That all just complement your craft of theater. That's excellent. And you both have been answering my next question about overcoming creative block. As artists, we always run into a wall. But as you've said, going outdoors, whether that be biking or crocheting or doing something, you both have found something to really take your mind off of your craft, explore something, even in a creative way, and that will just in turn influence your craft even more.
I think what you're doing is so cool. A podcast that you've started, I'm serious, and I think that speaking to other creatives is...
Yeah, you get a new
creativity.
frame of mind.
Yeah. My dad and I used to go to these creative mornings, they're called, in Philly. They're just literally like, it's basically this, but it's a speaker gets up and talks about something totally unrelated to your craft, but it's creative in some way. And like you just walk away thinking, new perspective, new ideas, but still within the realm of creativity. I think that like what you're doing is so awesome, because I'm sure that helps your own block too.
Oh, absolutely. Me, for sure. I just hope that this can reach other people so that they also can be inspired. Or they can see other people's work, how other people think, and if anything, can just inspire more art.
Yeah.
And you were saying before, like, different forms of storytelling, right? Like, there is a way you could look at almost every single kind of art creation as what story does this tell, right? There's always a perspective. Heck, if you look at the stitches in my pillows that I've crocheted, you'll figure out when I was falling asleep. Like, there's a story in everything, and you can learn so much. And coming from storytelling being a focus of the performing arts, right? That is the most explicit avenue that we're taking. Just talking, to someone with a different perspective, talking to a visual artist, or like the scenic designer, you know what I mean? Who was like, the reason I made this choice is because I interpreted that Elsa was feeling this way in this moment, and so we chose these colors, and so these set pieces have sharp edges instead of rounded corners. Like, everything was purposeful, and you can learn something about your own perspective from talking to other people.
Yeah. It's one of my biggest discoveries from Pique My Interest has been art is storytelling.
Of course.
Everybody is trying to tell their story, trying to evoke a feeling through their one craft. I just like to be a little biased and say that theater is straight up storytelling.
It is.
I mean, that's exactly what we do.
If
anything, we're playing different people in a different story that somebody else has written. We are the epitome of storytelling.
So
but
true.
also, coming back to Tuacahn, you tell 3 different stories every week. How do you maintain that balance between creativity between 3 different shows, let alone being the leads for a few different shows?
It's kind of awesome because it keeps it fresh.
It is. I mean, it's right. There's 3 shows. So this season is Jersey Boys, Anastasia, and Frozen. And the way that it works here is those shows alternate every single day. So we're never doing Frozen, Jersey. It's Frozen, Anastasia, and it changes every week too, based on the schedule, right? It's never the same. So
it's
sometimes
ABC,
the weekend, so we are constantly changing so that they can create these packages for the audiences here. So that, I mean, the draw to Tuacahn is also that you can see 3 shows in 3 days, right? The rehearsal process here was
cuckoo bananas.
Crazy, the craziest thing I've ever done. It's you rehearse one show and then you stop and you rehearse the other show, then you tech and then you tech and then you're rehearsing while you're performing, because there's no other way to get that done. And so you have to like somehow, I think there was a point probably for all of us here where we're like, how are we going to compartmentalize 3 different shows? And for one of them, I'm a swing, which I've never done before. Which haven't you been a swing before? Yeah, it's crazy.
What's a swing, Madeline?
A swing is a superhero in theater.
Correct.
I'm learning. But basically, it's someone who learns all of the, like, if you are female identifying, usually it is you learn all of the female identifying tracks in a show. Depending on how large the show is, it can be anywhere from 10 to 18 tracks that you're knowing, and you have to know them at a moment's notice. If someone goes down, you jump in, and you have to know exactly where that person's standing, what they're wearing, what props they're grabbing. Sometimes you also have to cover other featured roles or lead roles depending on the show. So basically it's just knowing the entire show by heart, which has been crazy.
And sometimes you get plenty of notice. Somebody wakes up with a sore throat and says, I can't do the show, and Madeline has hours and hours to prepare. But sometimes it's in the middle of a show.
It's in the middle of a show, yes. So throw that into the mix here. And so we're learning all 3 shows at the same time. I think like part of this career is sometimes it's just you've got to show up, do the work, and there's almost no creativity to it sometimes, right? Because you're just learning it. You're learning the material, and then the creativity starts to grow when you feel more comfortable. Sometimes that's how it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the opposite, right? Like,
yeah, sometimes right in the beginning, like I have a 2-line feature in Anastasia, this Countess Gregory, right? So, and that was new. I played the Tsarina on the tour, and so Countess Gregory was new to me here at Tuacahn, and I, in rehearsals, thought I had this one version of the character, but then, like, early, as the day I got my costume, I had this fabulous turban. And it changed everything. I became Yzma. Like, it just completely, it threw everything everything that I had done the rehearsal process was like 2 weeks before that, but like it's early too. You can get like as soon as they start introducing these new fun elements, you just learn so much. And it all gets informed by
you know what I'm saying? Like,
people.
you know, like sometimes, like even for like auditions, right? If you have not a lot of time to prepare for something, sometimes you're just strictly in I need to learn this shit mode.
Yeah.
like I need
what
to
are the
learn
words?
the words.
What do they mean?
And then you go from there. And I feel like, at least for me, my personal experience is like, it was very much like, okay, where do I go? What's the mapping for this show? What prop do I pick? Because you're doing 3 at the same time.
Yeah.
But then once like we were out on the rehearsal pad and once we were out there, it was like, okay, now I can breathe and like relax into it, and then I feel a little creative. But sometimes it's like a well-oiled machine, and you show up, you do the thing, you learn it, and
it becomes muscle memory to some extent.
Yeah, and that's your craft. That's what you've been doing for a while.
Right. I mean, Tuacahn, what'd you say, 12,000 people auditioned for this season or something? Insane, right? And there's 30 people in the cast. So, you know, they have done the work too, bringing people who are capable of absorbing information and output quickly, you know, we've all been working and training, or like, you know, we have all of these backgrounds in order to like try to do this quickly, which is scary. Not saying that we're good at it, like we're all still getting better at those things, but you know, there is a level of, here it is, like your muscles start to learn what your cue sounds like. You know what I mean? Like there was a moment just yesterday when we were doing Frozen, I was backstage and I was like, what the heck are those words? Like I'm Elsa and I'm about to go out and sing for the first time in the show and I have no idea what I'm about to say. I just can't get it. And then I was like, well, I'll figure it out when I get out there. And I just did, and then my mouth opened and then thank God I said the right thing, you know? And it just, you know what I mean? It's just, at some point you just have to trust your body and trust the work that you've done up until that point, and it can just come out of you. And sometimes it does not come out correctly. Trust me, had enough of those. But you know, you just gotta trust the work.
You can't explain that at all. Sometimes you're just like, I don't know what's going on, and your body just takes over.
Yeah,
and that's your craft.
And
that's
thank
what
God
you've been
for
working
that.
on your whole
and that's a creative choice that night.
Yeah, everything's intentional.
Yeah.
Every mistake was intentional. It was a new choice today. Yeah. Sure.
When I came through Tuacahn to see Anastasia in Frozen, you were in the middle of rehearsals for Frozen, and you had just opened Anastasia, and Jersey Boys wasn't even a thought yet.
Yeah.
And I just got to follow up, Madeline. I asked you, how is it being a swing and or an understudy?
Oh, no.
And you said, give me a few months. So I just got to follow up. And I'll ask both of you, because you both are understudies.
Yeah, lots of understudy.
What is that like for all my peekers out there? An understudy is somebody who covers a lead. So if a lead goes out, they'll be able to take over that role, which you were at one point.
Which I was, and still am in some capacity.
For other shows.
For other things.
But yeah, what is that like?
Well, all right, let me follow up here, because a few months have passed, and
yeah, how do you feel? I don't even know if I know this.
I've been swinging.
You've been swinging, girl.
I have gone on for almost all of my tracks, and an additional one, like not one that I've studied, right? That was very kind of like last minute. I will say this, I hated it in the beginning. I absolutely hated it, because I was stressed out. I'm like, how am I gonna do this? Like, how am I supposed to know who was where and what, right? But I'm also very type A personality of like, I'm very organized. I had it all written down. I have my little note cards, right? Like, so I knew I was absorbing the information. I just hated doing it because the like stress of not practicing something freaks me out, right? I'm all practice. And this is something that's like totally not that. I mean, I know you know, because have you been thrown on like mid-show, but right?
Yeah.
Terrified, right? And knock on wood, have not had that happen yet. But just the anxiety around it made me hate it. But then I'll say that as I continued to let it happen and let it go, if you will, since I am swinging for Frozen, it made me actually feel some of the most creativity I've ever felt on stage, because you don't have a moment to really think about it, right? There's no like pre-planned anything. You're just kind of doing it and making choices in the moment. And I will say I enjoyed that. I've gone on for both like feature roles of the Queen and Bolda at this point. And like the nerves just kind of settle once you just like, fuck it, like I have to do this, right? And I kind of love that. I kind of love that part. That's kind of like,
it's going to be
playing to the other part of my personality that loves that idea of just letting it go and not being able to control it. Would I do it again? I mean, for maybe the right show, And I think every actor should be a swing. I think it's a skill every single actor should have because it's
crazy.
It's invaluable.
Terrifying.
It's terrifying, but it's so, you learn so much, not only about yourself, but just about how shows work. Like, I mean, a director has to think like a swing too, right? They have to know where everybody is at all times. So
I think for me, the biggest speed bump is, you can practice as much as you can at home, but you can't practice just being an understudy. You can't, you don't know what it's like going out there. And the other thing that always blows my mind being a swing or an understudy is the backstage choreography.
Oh, yeah.
You can practice so much about what it's going to look like on stage, but you never practice what it's going to be like when you get off the stage.
gosh,
And then you
I
go,
know.
what's my next costume?
Right.
I got to go,
Yeah.
okay, what prop am I holding? Wait, what? Oh,
Yeah.
this prop is supposed to be on stage right now. Oh, crap.
Right. And
Right.
if you're a swing and an understudy, then being in the position of a swing, you're not on stage every night normally. There are on-stage swings, but so you have a little more flexibility when you're not on to track those backstage things. But I do not swing here at Tuacahn, but I do understudy one or more roles in every show, but I'll have my own track always. So I haven't had the opportunity to watch the backstage traffic happen. You know, you just kind of figure it out and hope that people are nice and say, hey, come this way, your costume's over here, you know. And there was a moment that I understudied the Dowager Empress here, and I was making my Dowager debut playing 50 years my senior. You do what you gotta with the makeup that you have. But Countess Lily is the Dowager's lady in waiting. So I was around you a lot and got to see like what was happening, how we got out of the opera boxes, because she had a really fast entrance next. Like I was learning so much. And then that was a Saturday night. And then the following Monday, Madeline was ill and our understudy was out of town on a pre-existing thing, and so I don't even understudy Countess Lily here, but I did on tour.
Yeah, she did understudy Countess Lily.
I did,
on tour.
on tour, and I was able to do it over 20 times, which is insane. I'm glad that you're feeling better now. But I had that from a year ago, like in the depths of my mind, you know, but doing the one understudy track, I got to see some things that I never would have known because I wasn't even paying attention to her previously and watching how her backstage traffic happened, because the onstage stuff was mostly the same here as it was on tour. We had the same director and choreographer, but the backstage space here is completely different. Though it's we were in a lot of small houses on tour, and the stage here is gigantic. There's different set pieces, like all of the choreography is different. So you have to like split your vision, both during the run and during the rehearsal process. You have to just be able to focus on so many things at once. Like you're learning your own track, but you have to always have eyes on that other person, be eavesdropping conversations. The number of times I just walked up to people's conversations, like intimate ones with the director, just to be in earshot, to like know what they're talking about. Sometimes the lead that you're understudying is staging is being set in a different room. So then you have to talk to stage management, or if we're doing a full run in the rehearsal studio and you're able to watch and like write down what they're doing in the moment in your script, you know, it's a lot of split focus. It is a lot of work. And I thank God had just a couple, you know, understudy things, but I can't imagine the swinging brain that was happening, especially during Frozen.
I just think that, in conclusion, every actor should understudy and or swing at some point. Helps you understand the business and the show so much better. And they really are the superheroes. They save shows so many times. You hear all those stories, right? And that's awesome.
And it helps you see the bigger picture than just yourself. Like, it's easy to get stuck in your own track. Like, this is what I do during my show, you know, but it just being responsible for other material as well, it just broadens your mind and gives you a better picture of what you're doing. Because we never get to watch the shows that you're in, usually, you know, so you get a better picture of what audiences are saying.
I think it's interesting the points that you brought up of needing to understand the entire show.
Yeah.
If you're going on an emergency for somebody else, you need to know what the scene is about. And even though you might not know exactly where that prop goes or how this costume works, you need to know how it kind of works as a whole process.
Yeah.
And I want to get into that. But before that, I do just want to give a little shout out to the creative team. Sarah Hartman and Bill Burns. I worked with them on the tour. They did remount it here at Tuacahn. And also, I worked with Raube on Hairspray. He also choreographed Frozen here. Shout out to them. Ooh. But while we talk a little bit about understanding a whole show, what is your advice for somebody trying to get into theater? Would you recommend going to school?
I often say, I think Well, one of the biggest misconceptions about going into theater is actually like thinking that there's one way to do it, and there's not. There's really not. Go to school if you want to go to school and continue to learn. I think going to school, I mean, someone who has a master's degree, who was in school for a long time, like, I loved it. That's what I wanted. I wanted that focus. I wanted to hone in on my skills. I wanted professors to give me input. I wanted a chance to get up and do it in front of people that were also learning the same thing. So of course, if this is something that you're really interested in and school is for you, go for it. Do it. Yes, it's not ever going to hurt you. I mean, it might hurt your wallet, but you know what? you decide if it's worth it or not.
What doesn't?
But I remember, I saw Porgy and Bess when it was revived on Broadway. My mom and I stood outside, waited in the line for people to sign our playbills, and we were talking to someone, and just had the most incredible performance up there. And I think my mom was just like, hey, like, what did you do? How did you get into this? This person had been a waiter for years and years, no education, just loved singing, happened to audition for this show, and after years of not studying it, but just loving it, was on Broadway, right? And you hear all these like crazy stories all the time of how people got to where they are. And I think that is just, know that there's not one path. It's whatever suits you. I will say though, if you are going into this, and I say this to all my students or like workshops that I teach, that you have to go in with really, really open eyes and know that this is not a career for money. If you're going into this for the money, you're going into it for the wrong reasons. And so if there is something else that piques your interest, think about like really honing in on that one thing, so that while you're pursuing your passion, you're also doing something that is going to help make you money and feed your soul in a different way. Because I think, again, like success to me is having that balance. And so, yeah, personal choice. But I would say, like, if you're really, really like gung-ho for theater, you're like, I'm gonna do it, then just put yourself in classes. Even if it's community theater classes, put yourself in voice lessons, start taking acting classes, improv, dance. Throw yourself into it 100% to test yourself. And this career will never stop testing you, so there's nothing to lose by doing that. But there's no one path.
This theater is not going anywhere.
No.
It will always be there. You can always come to it at a later age. There's always roles for older people, younger people. I saw a production of Waitress on Broadway where Al Roker was in it, and he was America's weatherman for like 30 years, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's always going to be theater.
Yeah.
Kaitlyn, do you have any recommendations? Would you advise going to school or taking classes on this craft?
Oh, I mean, you can never stop learning. That's the whole, just in life, you can never stop learning. But I mean, especially now, like I mentioned, just recently signed with my first agent.
Congrats.
And thank you. And they asked right in my onboarding materials, who is your current voice teacher? What dance classes are you currently taking? Who is your current acting teacher? And I'm already working in my career, and I do have my BFA in acting, and, I do have some education, but it's always, okay, but what, like, you can't just stop. You're not done. There's always something more to learn. There's, now, we get thrown into these weird environments, and I'm learning how my voice works now, which is completely different. Like, my body is a completely different body than it was in college. And like, that was great too, but you can never stop learning. And like Madeline was saying, it's kind of choose your own adventure. So, it's wherever you think you're lacking. I had been singer focused, dancer focused growing up, and I had never had a formal acting class, like no acting training at all. So I actively sought out my BFA in acting because that's what I lacked. But of course I was taking dance classes and voice lessons at the same time. But it was just, you know what your strengths are, you know what your weaknesses are. I guess my recommendation is start with what you know the least about, unless you know that like this is my one specific niche, like opera. Like if you're gonna be the singer, be in voice lessons, but if you want to do theater, like you've done a lot of musicals but you've never really taken a dance class, like maybe start by taking a dance class, just broadening the mind and the body and the skill set.
Always a student.
Always a student.
Learning new material.
Yeah.
So, going a little further, what's next for the world of theater for you? I know by the time this episode comes out, the Tuacahn season will be over.
Yes.
It will be winter. So, what's next?
That question is always so interesting as an actor, I think, because there's unintentionally implied like I should have something, right? And I know you know that because you're an actor as well, right? And so part of me loves the question and part of me hates the question, because what is next, right? This career is so unpredictable. You could be employed for 3 years and then be unemployed for 7.
Yeah.
You never know. And again, this is intentional. Knock on wood. I hope none of us are unemployed for 7 years. I have been auditioning while on this contract, which has been exciting because I just love new material. And once this ends, it'll be like, October 20 something, and then we'll have November, December, so the holidays. And I am craving being home with my family and having a little bit of just like pause, because being here for 7 months has been very intense. Very grateful for the opportunity, but it's the same environment, it's the same extreme environment, it's the same 3 shows over and over and over again, and I'm ready for a break. And that, I have also learned, is so valid.
Yeah.
Breaks,
and valuable.
Breaks are good. Breaks are equal success too. It means you're taking care of yourself, right? I have turned down just a few things that have come my way just for that reason, because I'm weighing all of the things, right? Is it, as you have to with any job, anywhere, right? Is the money worth it? Is the time worth it?
It's a huge form of success, is being able to say no.
Yeah.
And that is new for me too, because for so long I've lived in the survival mode of I need something and I need it now, right?
And there's such a grind set, right?
But,
is that
yeah.
too? Like, always be working, always be pushing. Like,
always.
the
And that's
self-care conversation
unhealthy.
is not.
But I'm excited. I'm going to be home for the holidays. I am going to teach. So if anyone listening is interested in voice lessons, you know where to find me. Yeah, and I'm going to gear up for audition season in January.
Next up for Kaitlyn, what am I doing? I have about 2 weeks between this contract and my next. I'm going to visit the mouse himself in Disney World in Florida. I will be singing with the Voices of Liberty for their Candlelight Christmas processional right in Epcot, and I'm very excited. I took a couple days in the middle of this contract to fly to Florida for the audition, and it's all tight harmony, choral singing, and it's Christmas and Jesus and all of it. And I just came back from working with the most incredible music director I've ever met, like just insane. And I just came back so fulfilled and beaming and just ready to sing crunchy harmonies with people for Christmas.
Happiest place on earth.
Happiest place on earth, yeah.
As well as you have a little experience if they ever need a replacement also.
Right, it
Yeah,
doesn't look
listen
bad on a
up.
resume. Yeah, so I'll be with the mouse for Christmas, and then back to New York City. Back to New York City for, audition season starting in January.
Back to the grind.
Fantastic. And where can we see your work? Obviously, you can see shows at Tuacahn during the summer season, but what about you? Do you have websites,
I have
Instagram?
a website. It's my name, MadelineRaube.com. And I have a YouTube channel, and I post often on TikTok and Instagram. So my Instagram handle is my initials, MDR Singer. So that's where you can find all my stuff on the socials there. Yeah.
My website is Kaitlyn-Jackson.com, and I'm mostly on Instagram at KaitlynJackson13, and sometimes Facebook as well. My mom is very on top of me updating my Facebook, so if you're not an Instagram person, try to keep up with that too.
My mom helped me with my social media.
I know, she's like, Kaitlyn, it's been a while. I'm like, I know I'm doing it on Instagram. But anyway.
Well, I can't thank you enough for joining me and piquing my interest. I'm with the Countess, I'm with the Princess. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for
It's
this
absolutely
fun
my pleasure.
creativity session.
I am so excited for tonight. I get to see Jersey Boys. I get to see these ladies perform. Best of luck on the rest of the season.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry, best of luck. I should break legs the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And best of luck to all of your auditions coming up and whatnot. I do like to end with one last question.
Oh boy.
If you could excel at any other craft besides your own, what would you want to do?
Oh my gosh.
I feel like there are so many options. We don't even know that
I
exists.
know. Okay, well, I've always said I've always wanted to be like just like a teacher, but I'm already doing that. So
are, and you're
I need to
excelling.
think. Do you have an answer before I do?
Kaitlyn.
Do I have an answer? I feel like it'd be cool to draw, like create something with my hands. I'm not good. That's how I ended up in crocheting, because anything I draw down is like not the best. But
Oh, I would love to be so good at like aerial art.
oh,
You know?
Yeah, that'd be
like
cool.
flying around with those ribbons. and-
flippers, gymnasty things.
Gymnasty
My body
things.
could never.
Yeah, but like pretend.
But pretend. You're right. That would be fun.
Yeah, aerial arts. I think that'd be
Oh, that would be fun.
That's fantastic. I love it. And thank you so much. And thank you to all my peekers out there. Please let me know if you know of any special or unique artists or art forms you think I should explore. I'm currently in St. George, Utah, and can't wait to see where Pique My Interest takes me next. Remember, creativity comes from the heart. Push yourself. Be kind to each other. I'm Scoob Decker, and thank you for helping me pique my interest.